All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Allied's monthly webinar series, where each month we'll talk about a business challenge out there and then demonstrate or talk about a business solution that can solve those challenges and really bring value. I'm Brett Meacham, sales engineer here at Allied Business Solutions. As you know, this month is Cybersecurity Month. So what better way to celebrate than with a webinar about safeguarding your digital universe? It's also pretty close to Halloween. So our presenter and host today are superheroes. They're the guardians of the cyber realm, Fred and Scott. Scott, why don't you go ahead and introduce you guys?
Okay, thank you, Brent. Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Hawks, and I work here at Allied Business Solutions. We're very excited to see everybody for this important webinar, going over a subject that's really been in the news lately. I'm sure everybody has heard about the casinos, and it's probably on the top of the mind for all the businesses out there. Today we have Fred Bauerfield, who is our vCIO at Allied Business Solutions. Fred entered the managed services industry in 2010 after receiving an MBA in technology management. So he's really worked for many IT managed services companies in both California and Idaho since then. Part of Fred's goals and his drive is to work with many of our allied clients that we have today, as well as people that want to talk about security, also discussing technology and business processes. With that, I'm pleased to turn this over to Fred for our October webinar on cybersecurity. Fred?
Thank you, Scott. Let me get my presentation up here.
Looks great.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining today. I actually kind of want to start off here with a quick poll. Got a couple questions for you. Have you ever received notification you've been possibly part of a company breach? That would be a yes or no. And our second question today would be, how confident are you that your employees or coworkers would recognize a phishing email? Are you very confident, somewhat confident, or not confident at all? Actually, and then the third question we have is, do you know what you would do if you fall victim to attack? Would you run and hide, scream and shout, do the twist, do the monster mash, or just yes and no? Would you know what you would do? Give you a few seconds here to answer that question. And then we'll come back a little bit later and talk about that. All right, so let's kind of go over our agenda for today. We're going to discuss some common cybersecurity threats that we're seeing on a constant basis here with the companies that we manage. Next, we'll discuss security challenges, small, medium-sized businesses are dealing with today. We will talk about what you can do to protect yourself. And finally, we'll just go over some best practices that we use here to protect ourselves and protect our clients. Business email compromise with some different types of cybersecurity attacks. Business email compromise probably being the biggest one that our small businesses, medium businesses are facing today. That was $2.7 billion in 2022. This is from the FBI Internet Crime Report. The tech support and government impersonation, that was at $1.04 billion. That's usually when somebody calls in and poses as technical or customer support or customer service, get you to give up access to their networks and accounts. Phishing, that's about $52 million, and ransomware. Everybody pretty much knows what that is, but it's a type of malware that prevents or limits users from accessing the system, either by locking them out of the system itself or by encrypting files, and then they ask for a ransom to be paid. The cost of cybersecurity attacks, this is just year over year, going from 18.7 billion to 26.7 billion. This is a list of the attacks and what they've gone over the last 5 years. This is from the FBI Internet Crime Report, and this I pulled from both the 2001 and 2002 reports. Just remember, this is only what's reported. There's a lot of other ones that go unreported out there. This is just ones that have been reported. A little bit some social engineering factoids. The average organization's targeted 700 times annually. I actually went in and looked this morning. We have a guard from one of our products that we have called Datto. And it scans our email systems. And in the last 7 days, we've had 179 emails that have been quarantined. I can look at them and see what they are. They're pretty scary. They're pretty real looking, but pretty. It's a lot of stuff coming at you every day, every single week. According to KnowBe4, the average organization is targeted 700 times annually. Secondly, 82% of data breaches involve human element. They may not have all been a major breach, but someone did click on a link and responded to a false email or text, or was tricked into giving some network credentials. The business email compromise, over 21,000 complaints were received with a loss of near $2.7 billion. That's compared to 19,954 complaints with $2.4 billion in 2021. So it's a pretty big jump. This is one we're going to talk about a little bit later as well, because it is so prevalent now and it is so costly. CEOs are becoming one of the main targets right now, 57 times a year just by phishing attacks. And that's just on average. When I'm looking through our reports and what I get, most of our C-level suites, C-level people are attacked almost on a daily basis. So let's go into some of the common security challenges for small business. One of the biggest is that the employees just aren't trained. By untrained, I mean that they're unable to recognize a common threat that scammers are attacking companies with, and the consequences and what those consequences are to the organization. Risk awareness is critical. Employees not only need to be able to recognize an attack, but need to be trained on what to do if they do fall victim and click on a nefarious email. Very few companies have a plan either to protect themselves or do what they need to do after a breach occurs. So let's take a look at those survey results, Brent.
Yep, let's do it.
So number one, got 33% of the people said yes, if they've ever been notified, and 67% said no. How confident are you that your email or coworkers would recognize a phishing email? Very confident was 29%, and we got somewhat confident at 15 or 71%. Not confident at all, that came in as a 0. And my favorite question, do you know what you would do if you fall victim to an attack? Monster Mash came in at 5% along with Scream and Shout. But yes, it's 67. I like that. 67%. That's great, actually. That's very good. And 24% said no. Wouldn't know what to do if they did fall victim for attack. So that's part of the planning thing we were just talking about. All right, so let's move on here. Another challenge is a lack of tools and knowing how to use them to prevent attacks. With the number of remote workers in today's workplace, threats are coming at us from all different angles, and we haven't had to deal with in the past. Controlling the user access and protecting the access is critical to preventing an attack. Also, many industries today have compliance regulations that they need to follow. Many of these regulations are not as straightforward as they need to be. They're just guidelines or frameworks, and have very vague instructions. Due diligence here is key. Planning, best practices, training, constant awareness are keys to staying compliant. Let's discuss some common cybersecurity attacks and help to train you what to look for. Of course, social engineering by now, pretty much everybody knows what that is. Simply said, it's just designed to give up some information or take your money. Information they're trying to get are network credentials, bank information on leaders inside your company, even just so they can target them. Information, ways to access your network. 90% of malicious data breaches involve social engineering. That's from KnowBe4. As an MSP, we see social engineering on almost a daily basis, not only with the companies that we manage, but on our company itself. Constantly, we're getting emails and texts trying to get us to react. We are trained to recognize these attacks and to know what to do if someone gets hit. Our emails are labeled when they come from the outside of our organization. So if someone's trying to impersonate one of our leaderships, we can recognize immediately that something's wrong with the message. One of the costliest types of social engineering currently, and we see a lot, is business email compromise. So this is threat number 2. Business email compromise is just designed to get a person or a company to transfer funds to a nefarious account. Scammers use social engineering to make this happen. They either give up an account that looks like an executive, or they get an email that looks like an executive from inside the company, or hackers compromise an account and start using that account to send internal emails or external emails to maybe a vendor, trying to get them to update account information or change a bank account where payments are made to. Either way, they pose as an executive and a financial officer to initiate fraudulent transactions by getting a company to wire them money. If your email is compromised, it is extremely difficult to recognize because the email comes from inside the company. I've seen scammers change email rules so that replies go deleted to a deleted mailbox. So the person getting scammed doesn't even know they're getting emails from a scammer. They pose as an executive financial officer asking for transfer and can confirm it. They can confirm it as it's asked from the exact email account. Outside the company, emails can and should be recognized. It's amazing though how much an email can be made to look and make it look like it's legitimate. I've seen the end of an email be changed from LLC to LLC, or scammers just add an S to the end of the company's name at a quick glance. It all looks the same. In this example here, you can see Meg Bowen to Claire Love. This one here was just trying to get some credentials. One thing you notice about this one is the very vague email signature on the bottom. Most companies have a lot detailed signature, contact information. Another one you can notice in this also is, and this is a big part of business email compromise, is urgency. They're trying to get you to react so you don't take the time to authenticate any request. Here's another one that you can recognize. The actual email in number 1, the header there, it is exactly what the email address is. But when you highlight and lay your cursor over the top of the email, you can actually see it's a different email that's being masked. So they're just spoofing it right there through forgery. But up front, you would never know it's a nefarious email or it came from outside. The second example, they actually just took the last name of the name of the company, and they made a 0 instead of an O. But at a glance, again, you'll never be able to tell, and you might react to the email, especially with the urgency they put behind it. There are other types of social engineering. We got phishing and vishing. Phishing emails are not quite common. They come in different forms. Some are asking you to reset a password. Others claim to be either a shipping company or a bank. They just want you to click on the link and give up your credentials or give access to your network. Once they're inside your network, they cause all kinds of problems. Vishing is similar, but it's a tool now used by phone. They call
Yes,
in. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Fred, I think it's a combination of these were used to compromise NGM and Caesars.
Yeah,
That's what's been in the news. I think this is what it was. Is that right?
yeah, that's right. Actually, somebody called in, pretended to be an executive, and asked the their IT support to give them access, which they did. And then from there, they just took it. But yeah, you said MGM and Caesars. You heard about MGM in the news, but you didn't really hear that much about Caesars. They were also hit, but it just did not make the news because it really didn't affect a lot of their outside customer-facing business processes. So, but yeah, cost them a lot of money. I think I read yesterday MGM ended up paying $30 million in ransom to get everything back up and running. We've also seen a rise here in smishing, texting employees to pretend to be a C-level or executive manager. We've gotten them here asking us to go out and purchase something of value. We get hit with asking us to get gift cards and then call them back and give them the number so they have them so they can give them away. Whaling is another type where an executive gets targeted to gain access to the credentials. Many executives have much higher permissions to files and networks, making them a high-level target. Here's an example of a phishing email. This is something that we got back on October 5th, and I've seen this one come through multiple times since then. It had the exact name of our officer. It had the exact email address. It says that their password is expiring and to go and reset their password. I mean, the Microsoft logo, the Microsoft all rights reserved across the bottom looks very, very, very authentic. And also, you can notice too here on the urgency that the link expires in 24 hours. And please review requirements within 24 hours to avoid interruption. So it gets you to click on this, put in your old password, which is actually your current password, and then create a new one. You go through the process, you don't even know you gave up your information. But that's one to really watch out for. Microsoft will never ask you or let you know your password expires. Only you can reset your password. So let's go over some risk mitigation, some of the best ways to prevent a breach from happening. Let's discuss some of the best options to keep your environment safe. So National Institute of Standards and Technology, I lean on them a lot when I look at what we need to do for security, especially for our clients. These are the 6 main pillars, and each pillar drills down into more things that you can do and gets into more detail, but this is at the highest level. Number one, this is new. This was not on the report last year, and that one is govern. Basically, cybersecurity is a major source of enterprise risk and should be a consideration for senior leadership. I've seen many companies over the years where cybersecurity is just considered an IT thing. Make sure the IT company or your IT personnel handle it. But when reading through this report, they said it's become such a problem and so important to a company now that upper leadership needs to understand IT, needs to know what the risks are, needs to know what a recovery process is. So governs a very big part of this now. Identify, understand how to manage cybersecurity risk and what is at risk. Protect tools and processes that you can put in place to ensure business continuity. Detect, how to identify a cybersecurity event. Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right personnel? The right company behind you that's watching over you to make sure they are able to find out what's going on. Respond, what actions to take once a cybersecurity event is discovered, and then recover. What services should focus on resilience and the steps to take to reestablish yourself to normalcy. That recovers number 6, because it's not when you're going to get hit. It's almost like when. Everybody does what they can to prevent, and everybody does a pretty good job, but every once in a while, once you get hit, you got to have a plan to be able to recover. So we look at some of the best practices here at Allied. One of the ones I think is number one is dual factor authentication. It is the most effective way to keep your network safe. A Microsoft study found that 99.9% of is effective. MFA is effective in blocking account attacks. Once a scammer has your credentials, they still need to access your Authenticator app if you have it, or your smartphone to be able to receive a code. With a second-step authentication, they cannot gain access. There are different ways to set up MFA. Once you have an email sent with a code or a text sent to a user phone, the most secure way is to use an authentication app, and that's what we highly recommend here at Allied. The code is only available for a certain amount of time, 30 seconds or a full minute, and then it changes. It's almost impossible to intercept or duplicate. Second best practice is using a VPN. With as many people now that work from home, it's very important to have a good, secure, encrypted connection in between your home office and the main location. Most companies don't do this, but this is a recommendation I have as well, is to put MFA on your login for your VPN. Because if somebody can figure out your credentials, do a brute force attack and get your password for a VPN, if you have that MFA on there as well, it's very, very difficult. Again, 99% effective. Very difficult for them to be able to access your account and access your servers on site. Make sure that it is an encrypted connection in between your home and office. And once used quite often to increase your use from work or home. Go to the next one. Right now, number 3 would be deploy security updates. This is something that we do for our clients, and most clients would do for themselves. But it's very important to monitor and make sure they're working. You know, you got to update your OS, your browsers, your antivirus, your malware. Make sure that your subscriptions to your firewall are up to date and that the firmware is up to date on there as well. Your cell phone needs to be on the latest version, so it has all the security patches that it needs. Any end-of-life devices, make sure they get replaced. Any software that's end of life, make sure you're doing your updates on your software, your QuickBooks, any of your engineering programs that you're using. They have security patches as well. And then make sure your services and software are up to date on your hardware devices. We just went through a whole project where we went through all our clients' firewalls and made sure they're on the latest versions. Maintain support on your enterprise software as well. A lot of people get behind on the support, but in their enterprise support is also software updates that need to be put in place because they got big security sections in them. Best practice number 4 is to use strong passwords or a password manager. Statistics show that a password is a minimum of 12 characters long, including capitals, lowercase, and a combination of numbers and symbols, can take up to 3,000 years for a hacker to be able to break it. So it's very safe. So keep that in mind. Also on passwords now, instead of using just random characters and numbers, it's okay to use a passphrase and along with a number and a character, as long as it's 12 characters long. So something that you can remember. Maybe just look around the room, grab a couple items that come to your head, combine them together. It's a lot easier to remember than some kind of complex digit by character password. Also, never use the same password twice. If it is compromised, it makes it very easy for multiple accounts to get compromised as well. Best practice is to used to be to change passwords periodically, but now they've found it's much more disruptive to do that. So if you use the 12 character or longer password, it's less disruptive and a lot more secure. Best solution around a password use, something that we're just starting to use here now, is a password manager. Password manager is very, very efficient way to keep track of all your passwords, but also to use different passwords for different sites and making them very hard, very complex, very hard to crack, and makes them easily to track. So if you have the ability to use a password manager, please do so. Best practice 5 is layer security. We use multiple layers, first being the human layer. Very important. Then you got your perimeter security, your network security, and then security on your endpoints, which would be, your antivirus malware on any of your endpoints, such as your workstations and computers that you have. MFA used on outside email access. So if you're using through Microsoft 365, Gmail, it can be logged into on a web account. Make sure that you have MFA turned on. Any MFA on critical applications, especially your ERP system, where all your main information, your client contacts, your billing contacts, make sure you have MFA. So when you go to open that up, you have to put in some type of additional security plugin. We use a single sign-on here, so it makes it a little easy once we sign into it. We don't have that pop up all the time, but that's one of the best practices you can use. And then just make sure that all your critical data is backed up. If you have it in the cloud, it's backed up. We have a program here. We back up Microsoft 365. It does SharePoint. It does Teams. It does all your email as well. But also test it. And we have also a solution for servers. But test all that stuff quarterly. Make sure that it's working. You don't want to have an exploit or ransomware on your server and find out that you haven't had a good backup for a while. Number 6 is educate your staff, train your people on what to look for. Very, very important. There's different programs out there, a lot of different programs now that you can purchase that will send fake phishing emails, different programs that will give you videos to go ahead and train your staff. Very important to train your staff. Be wary, anything money transfer wise, especially with how business email compromise is out there right now, just make sure that if anyone wants to change that account, anyone's requesting to send money, please pick up the phone and verbally verify any money transfers. It will save you a lot of time, a lot of risk, a lot of money. And then just run an assessment and test your network so you know that you're secure. Very important. One thing I was talking with a client and they weren't familiar with cybersecurity insurance the other day, but we were getting a lot of requests from cybersecurity insurance companies or from our companies that have cyber insurance to go through and answer questions. And some of the stuff that we see pretty much on every single report is, are you using multi-factor authentication? Do you have some type of endpoint security? Are emails tagged and marked as external? Do you have a business continuity plan for your data? If you do get hacked or your data is compromised, do you have a plan to make it safe? Are you using some type of cloud backup? And not only just having cloud backups for 365 and Google, just in case of hacking, but just I've seen clients make mistakes where, hey, I think I deleted a file 5 days ago and I had some very important documents and it was in SharePoint. If you got good backups, you can go back and you can restore those. And then make sure you have an incident response plan, something drawn up on paper, because the insurance companies now are asking for that. But a lot of companies I've also talked to, including our company, we've gotten discounts for having these things in place. So lastly, I want to kind of go over incident response. These are the 7 stages that are recommended by NIST. First, you have to preparation, and this means a thorough assessment to address all points, from staff training to developing a contact list in the event of an incident. Who has authority to act and approve forensic work that can become very costly? Is there a backup for that person? Do they have a credit card available to be able to pay for work if it's required up front? If this happens at 11 p.m. And you're notified that your server has been accessed, and a forensic team has to be brought in to go through and remediate the issue, are you prepared to make that happen? Next one is identify, the ability to spot unusual behaviors and classify them as critical and taking appropriate action. Once a breach is confirmed, it's very important to understand the nature of the event and the potential for it to cause damage. Filtering out false positive requires experience and technical skills. Containment's the next step. This, again, requires protocols which are lay out appropriate course of action. Different types of breaches will require different types of actions, so create a plan for different types of contingencies. Eradicate and restore. Work hand in hand. Is there a plan to eradicate different types of breaches? Is your process of restoring your environment well documented? Are your backups tested quarterly or yearly? Are your backups image-based, which is very important? If you have the full image instead of just the data, your return to operation is much, much quicker. Then lastly is learn and test. Just document and learn from every event that you have, from a basic email to somebody trying to break in through a phone call. It helps you educate everyone in your environment, and make sure your environment and your employees are more resilient. Fine tune and test your processes. Train your staff with an attack simulation, drills, and games. This process should be constantly repeated and prepare portion should be revised regularly as new types of threats and new things evolve and occur. So what can you do? Here's just some of the recommendations I have. Just make sure your solid layers of security, that every single layer that you have meets the needs, can block any exploit, anything that's out there. Just, plan and understand your environment and your needs. Cybersecurity awareness training, investigate. We have some programs here that we have available for our clients that do cybersecurity awareness training. We can set up phishing emails, we can set up training videos, we can do them quarterly, we can do them monthly. The scale of it's up to you. Make sure MFA is available, enabled on your email. I still suggest it on VPN clients as well, but for sure on your email, because most of the compromises we're seeing right now is because MFA was not enabled and somebody gave up their credentials. Look into a password manager. I think that's extremely helpful. Having longer, complex passwords that are hidden even from yourself, as long as you have that main password written down that gets you into your password manager takes care of everything else and keeps you very secure. Incident response in place. Get a written plan in case you have a breach. Know what you're going to do. Know what you're going to do for a business email compromise. Know what you're going to do if your server gets taken over. I can send out, there's the FBI crime report has a service called RAT. They're a response action team that will help you recover money, help you prosecute if you need to. This is new in the last 3 years, but it's a very important step. I think everybody should have it on file. And then lastly, cybersecurity insurance. Have you considered it? Do you have it in place? Have you talked to your agent about what it actually covers? Do you have business interruption insurance? That might be something that go along with your cybersecurity insurance. Just to have a conversation with the agent, make sure you know what you're covered for. And that is all I have. Brent, back to you.
Wow, thanks, Fred. So at the end here, Allied is always looking to improve. So we do have a survey we'd like to share out. And Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you participate in the survey, let me just get it going for everybody.
You will be selected for some Amazon gift cards.
Okay. Okay, that's what I was getting to. Can you guys see our survey?
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. All right, we'll just leave that up for a while. In the chat, I shared a flyer on IT security. IT security as like an onion. They both have layers. So we have our defense in depth approach. I'm also going to put Fred's contact info in the chat as well as and a flyer on our general IT services that you can take a look at. Scott, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, just on the last couple of slides, really, how to prepare yourself. Fred went over some tools and things that to consider for your business security posturing. Like he said, we offer all of those and welcome many introductions with Fred and myself to go over some of those security practices and how we can not only from a business perspective, but that training really goes over how you can protect yourself personally as well.
Yeah, we'll probably be doing another one of these in the next quarter. We are adding some new solutions to even keep you more secure. We've done a lot of research, talked to a lot of different companies. We're going to put some more best practices in place. So keep an eye out for our next one. We'll inform you all when it's coming out. And I want to thank you for attending, Brent.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
All right. Thanks, everybody.